Hello guys, and welcome to this module on 3D isometric designs in Adobe Illustrator. Now in the last module we learned about grids, right? And then we created 4 types of grids. We created rectangular grids, polar grids, hexagonal grids, and isometric grids. Now in this module we're going to pick out isometric grids and then work on them in details, okay? And we're going to be dealing with 3D. Okay, now we're going to create 3D designs from our isometric grids, and we kind of looked at a basic of what this is all about from the last module, where we created a 3D shape, a simple 3D shape from an isometric grid, and we compared it with a shape which we actually applied a 3D effect on. Okay, and we saw that it just was the same thing. Okay, so we even learned how to create the grid, and we learned a whole lot of things. Now in this lecture we're going to take it a little bit deeper. Okay, we're going to learn more. We're going to create more 3D shapes in isometry. We're also going to compare some of those shapes with the traditional 3D effect in Adobe Illustrator, and we are kind of going to learn other things like creating circles, okay, or ellipses in 3D isometry. Okay, now in order to start, I'm going to create a new project with a common preset, and we're just going to start by creating our grid. Okay, we're going to refresh our minds by creating our grid, our isometric grid. So we come to our rectangular grid tool. Remember, there are 2 ways we can do this. We can do this by starting with a line and then blending them. We can also start this with our rectangular grid tool. Okay, so click on the rectangular grid tool. The width and height should be 500 pixels. And now in order to create this one, we want vertical dividers, but we do not want horizontal dividers. Okay, so for these vertical dividers, let's make them 25. Okay, let's make them 25. And for vertical dividers, we want them at 0. We want Q to be 0%, and okay. Now when we drag, we can now see our shape created. Now we can centralize it or align it to the middle, and select your grid, right click, transform, and rotate. Now we have to rotate this by 60 degrees. Okay, so copy. Okay, and then we have to reflect the rotated version. So transform and reflect, and we have to reflect this by 90 degrees. Okay, so 90 degrees, and then copy. Now we then need to bring the guy in the middle. Okay, we then need to make sure it's aligned in the middle like this. Okay, now we can see that this is a perfect one. Okay, so we don't need to do any further thing. Now one last thing we could do is select everything, go to properties, just go to your pathfinder and divide. Okay, and from now on we can just basically delete the unneeded parts by dragging. Sorry, this is a group, so we have to go into the group, drag and delete, drag and delete, drag and delete, drag and delete. So we're just going to go a little bit further into the shape to delete more of those unwanted parts. Okay, so delete this one, drag. I think we kind of deleted a little bit too much, so let's undo for now and just try to take it little by little. Okay. So I think we have deleted quite much. Let's just delete this one, and yeah. So with this now we have our isometric grid. So we can just go out of the group and now scale it up. And now we have our isometric grid. Align it to the middle. Maybe resize our artboard like this. And right away, guys, we can start creating our stuff with our newly created grid. Now I'm just going to select the grid and just give it a stroke of 0.5 and create a new layer, lock this layer, and we can start working on our new layer while using our grid. Right, so from the last video we created a shape like this, a simple cube with isometric projections. Okay, so something just like this, and we specified how the shading should be, even comparing it with the 3D effect, and we saw that the 3D effect gave us a similar shading with what we created here in isometric. Okay, and of course we have to properly position the direction of light on the 3D cube, making it similar to the direction of light we are proposing here in order to achieve the same kind of shading, right? So of course we said light was coming from the front and coming towards this this direction. So when I just move these guys here, okay, so this was the illusion. So the light was coming from this angle, okay, it was coming from this angle like this, okay, it's coming like this, and then this will definitely be the darkest place. Okay, so isometric projection enables us to see once again three points, right? So this top and this side and this side. And let me just illustrate this again with our 3D effect. So I'll just remove the stroke. Now I'll remove the stroke on this shape too. Sorry. Okay, let me just give it this color and then give it a 3D effect, and then come and choose the isometric top projection here, and right away guys we can see that the effect of light is kind of similar to what we have here. If we maybe sample this color, let's say this color, okay, we will then immediately see that we are achieving something very close to what we have here. Okay, and of course we can do more work on the lighting to make it more perfect. Okay, so we'll definitely agree that this is better. So that's it guys for this example, and we are going to look at even more examples. Okay, we are going to create even more complex shapes. So let's create a more complex shape. Okay, so let's have this and this, so that we see how we create the isometric projection for that shape, or for this shape I'm drawing. So I'll just give it a stroke so as to see what's happening here. Okay, so this is meant to be a more complex shape. Okay, and turning this into an isometric 3D will be very simple. So just have something like this and give it a brighter shade of the color. Okay, and then we will work our way to this point, which could be a little bit darker. Okay, and we generally would want this part to be darker than all the others. Okay, maybe like this. And basically we'll just keep building up like this. Okay, now this one will have the same color as this one, because this is the top. We have to understand this is the top, this is the first side, and this is the other side. Okay, so the shading has to be even across all sides. Okay, so we have to create the parts separately. So this one will have this shading, and this big part here will have this shading. This other one will have this shading, and then for this one we'll just have something like this and like this, like this and like this, and then for this one we'll give it, of course, this shading, right? Then for this one, I think we even need to give it, okay, we need to give this guy this shading, actually, this shading. Okay, and if we were to apply shadows, we'll definitely have probably some shadow casting on this part here, but we don't have shadows for this example. And you see how we've been able to come up with the 3D of this guy that's using, of course, the isometric grid which we just created, right? So if we were to create this guy in 2D and use the 3D effect, we'll still come up with something very similar to this, okay? Something as exact as this, okay? So the possibilities of this grid is very limitless, okay? And like I said again before, we do not just use this for only 3D, okay? Like we saw in the other example, I created a 2D logo with this same thing, and we saw one of the examples on Pinterest, right? Yeah, so that's it, guys. And there's one other thing I would want us to cover before we end this video, and that's learning about isometric circles, okay? So if we were to create an ellipse in isometric projection, how will it be? Okay, so we know that this is an ellipse, okay, but if we wanted to create an ellipse in isometric projection, this will not serve, okay, because based on the rules of isometry rather, we want the surfaces or the edges of the circle or of the ellipse, the edge of the ellipse, we want it to touch 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so all the 4 points or all the 4 edges of this guy, okay, or all the 4 edges. So that's this edge, this edge, this edge, and this edge. The faces of the circle has to touch them, okay, or the edge of the circle rather. I just keep mixing these terms. The edge of the circle or the ellipse has to touch them. So if we just maybe expand this one now, we can see that it's not touching them perfectly because it has to touch them at the middle, okay? So one way of doing this might be to maybe manually say we want to probably adjust it like this, and just drag it like this, okay? So this would work, okay? This would work. It's basically touching, okay? So this would work. So this would be one way of creating this. This might not be as accurate as the second way, okay, because there might be some errors, some parts might not be touching, and so on and so forth, okay? This is a more complex approach to it. A more easier approach to it would be to first of all create a square like this, just like what you would create if you were going to create a cube, right? So you have to create this, okay, and make sure, of course, you are touching all of these vertices, okay, all of these vertices, right? You have to touch all of them like this, and then the next thing we will do is to come to effects and come to stylize and come to round corners. So, and we have to on our preview and then just start increasing the size. Immediately you see we will start from something like this, and gradually we'll increase it until the point where it no longer curves, right? And then we just hit OK. Now we can see that it has perfectly touched all of these edges, and that will be the perfect way to create an ellipse or a cylinder using isometric projection. So this is an ellipse. If we wanted a cylinder, we just need to bring it down like this, maybe to the next place, and then we have a few more adjustments we need to make. Maybe we just change this color and send to the back, okay? And to make a cylinder, we would want to just come and create straight lines like this, and like this, okay? And these two shapes here, now this one this ellipse here and this new one have to be the same shape. So select the both of them, and okay, we actually have to expand this first. You know, we applied an effect to it. We actually have to expand it for everything to take effect, right? So go to object and expand appearance. Click object, expand appearance. Okay, so now we have the whole effect applied, and when we select our shape right now, select our shape and just unite them, we now have it like this. Let me just make sure everything here is touching perfectly. Okay, now we can bring this guy to the front, bring to the front, and we see that we now have an ellipse. Now the easiest thing to do now is just apply a gradient to the shape here, because this will be a curved surface and it's impossible to have it as a flat color, okay, because light has to be coming from one direction. So if light is coming from this direction, this place will be lighter than this place, and if light is coming from this direction, this place will be lighter than this place. So one place has to be lighter and one place has to be darker. So I'm just going to give the darker place this color, and basically let's just give the both places the same color and just try to edit our gradient afterwards. So I'm going to make this one brighter. Just I'm holding down shift and just trying to brighten up the color like this, and right away we can see that we've now achieved this curved illusion here. Okay, so this is how to create a curved shape with isometry in Adobe Illustrator. Could reduce the size, maybe even group them, Ctrl G. Okay, I could keep going up and up and up and up. Use the size and keep going up and up and up, just like this. Perfect. Okay guys, so that will be it for this video. It's not meant to be a long one. So in the next videos we'll be diving deeper, and in the process we'll be creating some really amazing designs, okay, isometric designs in Adobe Illustrator with what we've learned so far. Okay guys, so that will be it for this one, and see you in the next one.